Take a girl and a guy, and they fall madly in love and form a family. Sprinkle in some counseling degrees and a doctorate, a dream of transforming relationships as we know it. And 20 years later, we give you power couple Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. And this is their podcast, Couples Synergy.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean. Hi, I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean. And this is our podcast about love, marriage, and relationships.
Please check us out online at couplesynergy.com or on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Couple Synergy. And please subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, or send us any suggestions on topics you'd like to hear more about. Keep in mind that this podcast is broadcasted live every Monday at 6 p.m. Central Time or 7 p.m. Central Time, depending on whether we get it out in time, on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So join our discussion with questions or just to say hi. And now on to Couple Synergy, an in-depth look at love, marriage, and relationships, where we bring our experience helping thousands of couples transform their relationships for over 25 years.
Every day we get to hear intimate details about a couple's celebrations, disappointments, and everyday challenges. We've often wished these stories were shared because we know we are more similar than different. So we've created not only an avenue where people can talk about their intimate lives, but an atmosphere where people come over to our home pub, pour a drink, and share their stories.
People like today's guests, Sara and Tony, thank you so much for being on our podcast today. This is a special treat because I have known Sara for a very long time, since high school. And I guess I met you, Tony, back during that time too, briefly. So, thanks guys for being on the podcast. This is going to be awesome.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, before we get into your relationship story, why don't you guys tell us and our audience a little bit about yourselves? How old are you? How long have you been together? And what do you do for a living?
Go ahead, babe.
All right. I'm Sara, and I am newly 51 years old. And I actually have had the honor and the privilege to be at home with my kids when they were younger. They're now in their 20s and grown and flown. I actually have been, for the past 12 years, I was in the behavioral health and weight loss industry as a weight loss coach for Weight Watchers. And recently I left that position, and I have a keep me busy job, as I call it, just working at our local Athleta. Love it.
I'm Tony. I'm 59 years old. I have been in the pet business, the pet industry, for about 38 years. I worked for two different companies in the pet industry for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm. A lot longer than we've known each other.
Can you tell us the story of how you met?
Well, that's an interesting one. When you, Ray, when you said that you wanted to hear how we met, it's always been a pleasure to tell that, because it was actually a fluke meeting. You need a little backstory before you hear how we met. First, with Tony's job, what have you done your whole career until the pandemic?
Yes. So I've traveled those 38 years, every month, 2 to 3 weeks a month, up until the pandemic, every single month for all those years.
Wow.
So our whole relationship when we first met, and of course when we were married up until the pandemic, was basically the schedule would be he would leave on a Monday, get back on a Thursday, or he'd leave on a Tuesday, get back on a Friday. Sometimes he'd be gone on weekends too. So he happened to be flying from the West Coast to the East Coast. Home was New York at the time. I was living in the Chicago suburbs in Wilmette, where I was living with my parents. And it was truly a fluke thing. It was July 3rd, 1992. And in the town where I was living, like a lot of the towns in Chicago, because Chicago has July 4th set for their fireworks and celebrations. So a lot of the surrounding towns do it on different days. Well, in Wilmette on the lakefront, they always do it on July 3rd. I had some plans that I was looking forward to that fell through. So at the very last minute, I caught a ride with my parents down to the lakefront. And I figured that I might bump into a friend or someone and leave my parents and watch the fireworks, have fun, just hang out. And my parents were meeting up with some friends of theirs. And along came this guy.
Yeah, so I was supposed to fly from Los Angeles back to JFK, and then I have an uncle that lives in Chicago, and he said, "Why don't you just spend the weekend with me?" Because I was coming back on that Monday back to Chicago. So I said, "What the hell? I got nothing else to do. I'll spend the weekend, July 4th, with my uncle." And I happened to go to this event,
The concert,
symphony, and all this stuff
yeah.
with my uncle, and that's where I met Sarah.
Yeah. So immediately, I felt really sorry for him that he was.
Oh my God! I know you're gonna go with the clothes.
Well, no, not yet.
No.
So like right away, I was like, "Let's pop, let's get out of here." Tell you what. Why don't I show you the boats? Because there's a harbor there in Wilmette, right there near the Baha'i Temple. It's beautiful if you ever have a chance to go see it. And then we just started chatting right away. Tony asked me a question. He's like, "I need your honest opinion. Can you be honest with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm honest." And he said, "What do you think of my shirt?" And I looked him up and down at his whole outfit and everything. You should have. Yeah, that would have been good. And I said, "Honestly, it's the ugliest shirt I've seen in my life." And he started laughing so hard. And do you remember what you said? You're like, "Oh, well, that's all right because it only cost $1." It
cost me $1.
I didn't have any clothes, so my uncle had to take me to Gurney Mills.
Yeah, so it's not. So I was in a suit, decided the last minute, connecting in Chicago to stay the weekend instead of going to New York and coming back. So I had to go buy some clothes. So I bought some jeans, the whitest sneakers you've ever seen, and the ugliest shirt on the planet. But it was $1. It was in the clothes. It was only to spend 2 days there. Anyway.
Yep. So I'll try to finish the long story up. Basically, we enjoyed each other's company, got ice cream. We went back. We're like, all right, the parents are probably looking for us. Go back to the band shell, and we're sitting there. And at the time, I was a camp director for the park district. And one of my campers was sitting right in front of us, and she kept looking at me and saying, "Sarah, is that your boyfriend?" And I was like, "Oh, this is Tony." And no, we just met today. And she kept staring back at him. And finally she said, "Tony, are you going to marry Sarah?" And I was just horrified. I was so embarrassed. And do you know what?
And I said, "I just might."
Yeah.
Did you feel that, or were you just sort of playing?
I don't know. But I can tell you 30 years later, 31 years later, it happened. Story. So yeah, but it's 1000% true.
Yeah.
It was that's
what
happened.
When did you know that this was your person?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't know. Like immediately, even though he lived in New York, he came back to see me. He made sure that he scheduled every single flight that he could to come through Chicago. Mm-hmm. So we saw each other probably every other week. And then just a few weeks later after we met, you invited me to be your date at a friend's wedding in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a big risk for me. And I was like, all right. And I think it was there because I just remember having this one day an overwhelming sensation of being very comfortable. I think that's what it was. I just felt really comfortable with you. Yeah.
So you guys did a long distance relationship for quite a while.
Not that long, because
maybe
A year, a little over a
14
year.
months, something
Yeah.
like that, 14 or 15. But yeah, I mean, it was, I told you I traveled so much, it was actually pretty easy. I just connected in Chicago, every time I was, going somewhere, which was really, I was a big American Airlines guy. So American or United, right? You guys know Chicago.
Yeah. We're United people. So
What was it about your partner that you fell in love with?
That's for you.
Oh, that is for me?
That's for you.
When I very first met her, she's, I think still to this day, she's beautiful. Just very classy, very even keeled. I mean, just her demeanor is the best on the planet, always has been. It just felt right. I wish I could tell you that. I know this is why you do it, but it just, I can't put my fingers on it, but it just worked, and she's wonderful. She always has been. She always has been.
I think we were both different than what we grew up with too.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like for me, like you were different than what I knew. I grew up, I'm the only girl in a family of 7. I have 4 brothers and lots of male cousins, and Tony, you were just different. Just different. Outgoing.
I'll take your
funny.
word for it.
So what happens after 14 months? You guys are kind of dating as you're flying in and out of Chicago and kind of meeting up. And so how does the relationship transpire after that?
14 months we were married.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
We were met July. We were married in October of
can't keep it all.
93. October.
Oh, so yeah, you're right.
October of
July.
93.
Yeah, you're right.
And we were trying to remember when we were engaged the other day. It was somewhere between February of 93 and maybe April of 93.
We were just talking, our oldest daughter was engaged
Just this past weekend.
4 days ago. And we were talking about our engagement and when it happened. And we couldn't remember the day or the month. We remember obviously how it happened and what have you, but it's
How did it happen?
That story's never been shared. And if our daughters listen to us, we can't share it because we've never shared it with them.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Secret engagement story. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So 93. So I graduated college in 94.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was, did you have any concerns as far as getting married so young?
So young.
So young. Well, I suppose so, but it just felt right. I was kind of at a point where, and I remember our relationship, as long distance as it was, we spent a lot of time on the phone, like hours and hours. Oh my gosh, we had to pay for long distance.
AT&T, those guys, they owe me a refund because what the phone bills used to be. Yeah. I got one, no kidding, it was $908 for a phone bill. I think it's when I put up the Christmas tree or something, but anyway.
Oh yeah, that was a whole entire day. Yeah. But I remember one conversation once with me and Tony, just a few months in, basically he was ready to settle down and he knew I was the one. And, I was like, oh, but I'm still so young, but it was all right. Either you're it or you're not. And I was like, I just felt like I needed to be all in. And it was just the best risk that I ever took. Because it's really paid off. Right?
You got 2 beautiful daughters out of it, right?
Sure.
We hear that a lot. Like people ask us like about timing, about ages, about all that stuff. And there is no rule. It is, what do you feel, And there's some people look really great on paper and don't make it. And other people don't look so great and they make it. So who's to say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at our wedding, I remember so many of my mother's friends or aunts, and they would hug me, and that reception line you used to have to do. They're like, oh, but
Yeah.
you're so young. You're so young. It didn't really feel like it.
Wow. Wow. How did that feel? Was that a common sentiment, amongst family that you were so young
Not,
to get
not,
married?
not with my parents.
Okay.
I don't know if your parents ever said anything.
About you?
Yeah.
No. And I was
Yeah.
3 months shy of 30, so
Yeah. So
yeah. I think maybe your brothers might have been a little weird about it.
yeah.
She got 4 older brothers. That was a lot of fun for me. Even in that short courting period, it's like, where are you going, buddy?
He actually, Tony passed the test when one of my brother's cats was hit by a car in front of our house and killed. And Tony actually helped, and he grabbed a shovel and he helped bury the cat in the backyard. And I think that's when you got the A-OK. Like,
Wow.
I'm
Gina's,
you know, I have to help bury my brother's cat. And he was like, listen, I'm not saying anything. I'm just going to help here.
Gina's 6 brothers.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
And you didn't even meet some of them till the day before we
till
got
the
married.
night before, and they were kind of like you picture Sons of Anarchy, and they drove Harleys, and they're pretty rough guys, but I was able to fit in somehow.
So you know exactly what I went through.
Yeah,
Exactly what I went through.
I do.
And our youngest son's getting married next week.
Our youngest
Or on
son is-
Thanksgiving.
on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so we will be coming into the Chicagoland area to head out to Vienna. That's where they're getting married.
Terrific.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Wow. Well,
Thanks.
So, we get a lot of questions about this long distance relationship type stuff. And your whole marriage, you were traveling most of the week. How did you guys stay connected? What are there any things that you guys did or made up that helped you guys through that time?
That is so funny. I thought you were going to put together, and maybe it's coming, but so do the math, right, guys? When we're married for 30 years, COVID came. I traveled every bit what I told you, that amount. And suddenly there's no more trips. There's no more hotels. There's no more escaping when I needed to escape. Me getting out of her way when she needed me out of her way. I was in this office. It just suddenly screeched to a halt. And man, was that weird. And I remember saying, well, we're going to find out how much you really care for me, because I was gone again Monday through Thursday, Tuesday through Friday, Monday, every single week, with the exception, 2 weeks or so a week out of every month for years.
yeah. Well, I'll take it back to like when we were first married, and mostly like when I first had, young daughters, little ones and play groups and stuff. And I always got from the other moms and from other people I'd meet, oh, poor you, Sarah, your husband's gone all the time. He's traveling. Don't you worry, that he'd be unfaithful, or, that, your relationship isn't, what it could be because he travels so much. And I always had a completely different view of it. We always used to say that we always missed each other, and we truly did. And I think that was just made our relationship so strong, because we always looked forward to talk to each other on the phone. We always looked forward to seeing each other again when Tony came home. And I have to say that for someone who traveled as much as he did, like, you called me multiple times.
I was really
a day.
good about that.
Multiple times a day. So much so that sometimes it was like, oh my gosh, he's calling me.
I forget. Did I have the bag phone then?
I think you had, yeah.
And then the other phones with it was like you were a satellite,
Oh yeah.
And now, if we had this, I don't know that it would be the same, because
because
you're able to FaceTime, which I wish we had when the girls were little.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, but
I know, but
I think it's so important, because still, even to this day, our
No, you know what? There
best-
wasn't a phone because I had a beeper and I had to go. I'd have to go find a payphone.
Yeah, I used to have to get your hotel numbers, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, and then call
and
me
then
in the hotel.
hotels stopped letting me get through because if I didn't know your room number.
Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, but
That's interesting because we've also talked to couples who were married, 65 years, and their whole courtship was correspondence by writing letters because one of them was like in the military or something.
Oh, cool.
And I think that does do something to a bond that's different than just kind of letting things happen, which is what a lot of people are doing now. They sort of go, well, my lease is up, so let's move in together, instead of like, I love you, I want to commit to you, let's get engaged, let's get married. And they're like, let's see how this goes. And then they get engaged and they're engaged for like 8 years or something.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And those are really definite relationship behaviors that feed the relationship, because you have to make an effort, like calling, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm coming home from work.
Yep.
it's still our best form of communication. Literally, the second you leave the house, even if you're just running to the store, he calls me like before he's even out of the neighborhood, and that's when we have our conversations.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because your relationship the entire time, I mean, that's what you were signing up for. You knew that your job demanded that you were going to be gone. And so that was the expectation. And so you guys had to make that work, right? I think a lot of couples have that difficulty when maybe their job is regional and then they get another job and now travel is part of it. And it's hard for them to make that shift, right?
I think dead on correct. The fact that she knew I did this, had been doing this, I think it just made it. It's like it's part of the deal.
Yeah.
And I think I remember telling you, Sarah, that this is what I do. I mean, it's like this is what we got to do.
We made so many decisions before. I mean, in here we were married 14 months later, but we made so many life decisions. Like before we were married, we knew that if we had children, if we were blessed with children, that I would stay home no matter what we had to do. And I've always considered Tony's job my job. Not that I would know how to do what he does, but there's a lot of what?
No, I'm just trying to think what you said, but Tony's
job,
my job.
Yeah, well, because we've talked about like I do my job so that you can do your job really, really well.
Oh, no question.
Right?
Without a doubt. Yeah. No drama, no concerns, you just made it very easy. Like I said earlier.
But you made it easy
even
too.
keel,
like he would be gone all week. Kids are little, and I would know that the first thing, and he'd have back-to-back weeks of traveling. I know the first thing he wanted to do was just come home and be at home and be with his kids. But he would always be like, "You've been at home with the kids all this time. Let's go out to dinner." You're like, no. You want to, let's just stay home for you. He would be so adamant. No, we need to go out. Let's go out.
So you guys were a trad couple before it became a fad again.
Well, what is that?
What is that? Yeah, what is that?
Educate us.
Traditional couple, traditional marriage and everything. It's
all the labels today.
Now there's kind of this fad coming back where traditional couples are now in high regard. Like people are going back to this stay-at-home mom, and the guy works and takes care of the family, provides, and it's like this swing, right, in our society and culture now coming back.
Mm-hmm. Then the dueling.
I do, and I have zero. What do you mean?
Well, because our kids are not here.
Yeah, that stinks. But
Really
well, I want to hear about this part. So, towards the end of your pregnancy, he's traveling. Were you worried about if he was going to make it to the birth? Were you at the birth?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I absolutely was.
He was, but really, you probably cut it pretty close to the end. I remember we had some codes for the beeper, like if it was an emergency. But no, our first was born on a Monday, so that was easy, and the second one was Tuesday, and you just happened to be home. I think they were both overdue, so he was kind of hanging around.
No, I wasn't going to
Work
miss
out.
that under zero
Okay.
circumstances. would I
Although
miss
with
that.
the second one, he did go to his grandmother's
go to a
funeral,
funeral,
and
yeah.
I was already overdue, and everyone was upset. His mom was like, "Oh, you can't come. Sarah's gonna have the baby," and like I knew in my head that I could drive myself to the hospital with a toddler in the back by myself. I was like, "Don't worry."
I was gone for 16 hours or something. It
I'm like,
wasn't
"I'll
that.
be
I
fine.
was
I'll
riding
drive
around, but,
myself."
yeah. Anyway.
How was that for you, Tony? Like, there are long periods of time during the week that you're not interacting with your kids. Was there any regret about missing maybe like first steps or, first words and things?
I was, yes. To this moment, there are things that I wished I could have been around for, but our agreement and the work that I did allowed us the lifestyle that we have and had, and that was the trade-off. And again, I would do it all over again, even missing some of the things that I did. But Sarah got to be part of every one of those moments. And everybody says it, I have the most wonderful daughters in the world because of Sarah. And I would not undo any of that. But yes, to this, I guarantee you a week ago, I said to Sarah, I really wish that things could have been different, because I feel that now. Our daughters are grown. They live, 6 hours, 5 hours from here, and I miss them every single day. And I can't get enough of them when I see them. And that's probably related to the fact that I did miss so much. But I would do it all over again. I hope you would too. You don't have to answer that.
I had a really fun time.
So how was it when COVID hit and all of a sudden you guys are for the first time in the same space for longer than like 3 days at a time?
Well, I have to say, for me, I was always worried because I was so used to him traveling all the time, and like I said, missing each other, that I was always worried about one day when retirement happened.
Wow.
So honestly, we got to experience that way ahead of time, because truly it was like retirement. All of a sudden my husband was home every day. Fortunately, when we moved to Virginia from New York, Tony established, you're here in his office right now with all of his albums. And he had already kind of established his office here. So when he was home, he would work from home, like people learned how to do during the pandemic. He just had to learn how to work from home every single day.
Every day, yeah.
So, yeah. So we have a little separation here.
Yeah. A lot of times, if you have kind of like a divorce situation where a kid is moving from one home to the other, there's like this transition period where it's hard for them to, they kind of are easing into being back at home again. Right. So I was just wondering if that was a similar thing that you guys experienced when you would come home from travel. Would there be kind of like this transition of easing back into the swing of things, of being together before having to ship out again?
Oh, you know what? It was such a compressed period. So, again, often coming home on Friday, and it could be, early Saturday morning, and then having to leave, Monday morning at, 4:30 in the morning. It just worked. And it was we were slamming things into the weekend, just trying to spend as much time as possible. But it just
Well,
worked.
the sports and the dance were said. Oh, you used to throw me off. If he happened to come home early during the week, he thought it was the greatest thing if he took our girls to dance class. And that would throw me off, just because The girls.
Because you had a schedule.
But
Yeah,
I, you know what? I have had a whiteboard on my refrigerator. What do I always say?
Yeah,
If it
check the
doesn't,
whiteboard. Yeah.
if it doesn't make the whiteboard, it's not going to get done. We've got a calendar. We have a grocery list. We have a monthly calendar. We have a weekly calendar. We have the menu plan.
But I think it was more so a transition for Sarah and our daughters, because I'd come home and be disruptive for sure.
Yeah.
Just
But-
disrupt the routine that
Yeah,
they're
it's
used
the
to.
routine. Yeah, not like, yeah, nothing detrimental. Well, I didn't see it as detrimental, but
Well, 'cause
definitely disruptive
We would
because
have to hurry up and wait. Rather than just doing what we're going to do, we'd have to hurry up and wait for you.
oh
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
What were some of the most challenging times, over the course of 30 years of being together?
Challenging. That makes me think of
Chloe?
I guess so.
When we first, but that's
Yeah.
not related to.
That's just working it
Us?
out. That wasn't challenging. I don't know. That just makes me think, Ray and Jean, that so last October, Tony had the honor of being the officiant of his goddaughter's wedding.
Okay.
And so we had a lot of discussions a year ago. That's why I thought this would be kind of similar about marriage and what he wanted to say to the bride and groom. Of course, the bride and groom probably don't remember a thing that he said. And one thing we've always said is
it's not work. It's truly never been work. I know it sounds weird.
People will tell you that marriage is hard work, but if marriage is really hard work, then something's not right.
From our perspective, it's just never been that difficult.
Because you pick up the slack, you do all the things, right?
Yeah.
We do. We joke a lot too.
We do.
Yes.
There's a lot of teasing that goes on in this family, and even just amongst.
We fail each other all the time, right?
That's what. Yeah, guys.
Did you say we fail each other?
Like.
Well, no, I fail you.
No, you No. Yes, you did fail me. Wait, I failed you. Anyway,
Yes, you did fail.
Yes, it's an ongoing skip we have, and our kids are so tired of it. But
as it's Ray and Jean now too.
So obviously, marriage is not all sunshine and rainbows, and couples are supposed to and have conflict. That is inevitable in every relationship, right? What did you guys learn about conflict and conflict resolution, in your relationship, and maybe, some of the things that you learned that you didn't learn from your caregivers and your upbringing?
So I think probably the biggest conflict and moment where we had to think differently, and it was early on in our marriage, was with my parents.
Oh man. Oh.
So there's
that's actually yes, conflict there. You're absolutely
conflict,
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Parents staying too long, and when they're your parents and you grow up with them and you just don't think anything different, you don't even think about, oh yeah, mom, dad, come stay for 2 weeks. Not even. That was kind of early on. We had that was conflict a couple of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hope your dad doesn't listen to this.
You know what? I sent him a picture of Paige's ring today, and he still doesn't know how to text. He's 94.
Yeah, I know. My parents, they don't know how to access the podcast. So I talk about them all the time. That's perfect.
Sometimes we even have them on and they don't know it.
Right. They don't even know they're on it.
It was tough. And at that point, like, Tony was my mom's best friend when we were engaged, and really when we were first married, but it was the first trip where she had one of those moments where instead of complimenting us on our house or whatever, she started in with oh, you should do this, and this is the way things should be, really kind of
Doing the mom thing.
Doing the mom thing.
Doing-
That's exactly
yeah.
what I was going to say. And it just did not sit well with Tony. And that really opened my eyes to see how I was brought up in a different way and really changed the trajectory of my life and how I wanted to bring up my family.
Yeah, it is very interesting to do the shift from being the mom to being the grandma
Yeah.
and letting your adult children be who they are and not momming them,
Right.
which has just been natural their whole lives.
Oh, right. It's so
Yeah.
funny with our daughters. I've always kind of tried to be open and honest and have a good flow of communication. And one thing I always I always told them what they could expect when they were little, and I always thought that was really important as being a parent. But I also, especially nowadays, when I know that I hear myself, because I try really hard in that whole background of being a behavioral health coach, I learned a lot from that. But I hear that voice, and before I even say it to them, I'll say, all right, guys, I just want to give you a warning. I'm going to mom you right now. You can take it for what it's worth, but I know that that's what I'm doing. And they usually they'll either be like, oh, mom, or they'll just laugh at me because I already know what I'm doing.
You know, Ray, just one thing I want to comment about the conflict thing, because, you know, we went to, well, my in-laws and her parents, but there's nothing, even as traditional as we are from how we, you know, who did most of the caregiving and what have you, when it comes to doing things and things that need to be done, there's never been, you know, you do that and I do this and you do that and I do this. I mean, there are some things that she's certainly better at than I am from a, you know, getting things done. And meanwhile,
like fixing
anything, I'm holding the flashlight for. So I don't need to, you know, I can do it. I'm holding the flashlight so that she can see to repair something. But
I even have a theme song.
Even Mrs. Fix It. Even from a conflict perspective, or what could cause conflict, we really just, if it's got to be done, let's get it done. It doesn't matter who does it. Just get it done. Let's try. I can tell you, we both have always tried to leave a drama-free life.
Oh, yeah.
It's just drama does no one any good.
I grew up with a lot of drama, and that's one thing I didn't want.
Under any circumstance, any time, any place, drama does nothing for no one. My perspective. Our perspective. Your perspective.
My perspective.
Our perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of maybe even an innate thing, because we're like that. We just get done what needs to get done, and we don't really, even very early on in our relationship, we didn't really talk about it. Like even packing, somehow one of us brought the toothpaste and one of us brought the whatever else, you know, and we didn't even think about it. And we always are like that too. Just get done what needs to get done.
Well, many times in a relationship, if, you know, there is this, you do this or you need to do that, there is more of an indication of a power struggle that's going on, you know, versus a couple who is coming together as a team. Then that team approach is, all right, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to take care of this. And, you know, in that way, you're both making sure that what needs to get done gets done, you know, versus having to tell your partner what needs to get done. That creates a power differential, and now there's an authority over one, right? So that doesn't surprise me, you know, the fact that you guys kind of worked really well as a team. Obviously, you would not have been able to navigate being away from each other, you know, for so long and so consistently if you weren't able to work as a team.
We're firm believers in birth order too, though. So
to talk more about that, what do you mean?
So Tony's firstborn and I'm a lastborn.
Okay.
We're really well.
And how does that play out in your relationship?
Well, as
I hold the flashlight while she fixes things.
I'm pretty go with the flow, because not only am I the
No doubt.
baby, but I was born 10 years after my next youngest sibling. So I pretty much just had to do what everyone else did or said. I never even really talked a whole lot when I was younger. It was actually Tony that brought all the talking in me.
So you're almost like an only child because there was such a huge.
Oh, you know what
Yeah.
I never thought
With
about?
lots of parents.
But so yeah, so
That's
so
a
if
good-
you
that's a
if you
good
read
point.
anything about birth order, when you have a big gap like that, you still have that like last born, like I am, but I also have some firstborn tendencies. So someone who might not necessarily get along with the firstborn and their triple A personality, I understand that, but yet I'm easy going. Like I understand he wants the list and he wants to check the list off, and I enjoy lists and checking lists off myself. But I'm also pretty easygoing, whereas
Hurry.
we'll have a plan, right, to do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And then at the very last minute, it's always you that decides, yeah, let's not do that plan. Let's do something different. But I'll be like, but the plan. So it used to bother me more. And I think I just kind of go with the flow.
Am I sensing conflict?
Maybe. I don't know. I think it's just, right?
It's just interesting, how dynamics play out in every relationship, and every relationship is unique to its own, and how couples navigate the challenges of life is always interesting, right? Because when it comes down to it, it's just the two of you behind closed doors, and you guys have to figure out, how you're going to move through life and move through life together. Yeah, I was wondering if your relationship, your marriage started out where you were not traveling, Tony, and you had kind of a 9-to-5 job where you were at home all the time. How do you think things would have been different?
A great question, but who can say?
Yeah.
And you know what? My regrets are not having been around with the kids.
I could tell you how it would be different because I have thought about it. No, and really, it all comes down to the kids, right?
Yeah.
Because Tony, that's one of his biggest regrets is not being around for the kids. But they really never felt it because
You're sweet. You always say that.
because
You always
we
say
would call
that.
you right after the award ceremony or the game or the recital or whatever. But how it would be different is I don't think Tony would be as engaged a father when he was around. Because you think about it, you hear about, and it can happen with moms too, but you're around your kids all the time. And, when you come home from work, you just want to decompress from work and you don't want to be playing with the kids. Like he would come home from traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast. He'd be flying a red eye. It wouldn't matter. And it was all about his daughters. And like he said, he packed everything in. Like when he was there, he was a fully engaged dad. And I don't think they ever felt you not present when you were in their presence.
You always say that. I'll always regret it, but thank you for that. But I'll tell you,
it's really about quality, right? Quality versus quantity then.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Whereas they, in my mind, I think I was with them all the time, which I absolutely love. And, but in the heat of the moment when, you've got two kids there that are sick and you're sick yourself and you got one under your arm and the other's throwing up and, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is awful. Like I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, there was the time I didn't come home for the hurricane for the hurricane.
Oh,
because I was at the Miami Heat playoff game,
yeah,
which didn't go over well. But that's other than that.
Yeah,
I've tried to.
Yeah. This most stressful times in our lives when we've been preparing for hurricanes. And I've always taken Tony's lead because he gets the sense and he's like, for all the hurricanes that come across the East Coast every year, it's like he always knows which one is going to be the one. He got that same sense and feeling just before the world closed down, before the pandemic. I was doing some promotional work in Los Angeles for Weight Watchers, and I was flying home from Los Angeles. You were on a trip. And I think we knew that everything was going to shut down, or I didn't, because I had been in like my own little world. And he called me when I got into my Uber once I landed at home, and he said, hey, I know it's like 11 o'clock at night right now, and I don't expect you to go to the grocery store right now, but I need you to wake up really early in the morning and buy every single grocery you can possibly buy and pack our freezer and our refrigerator like you've never packed them before for a hurricane. And I was like, okay. we trust our guts a lot. Yeah. So,
I was a single mom before I met Ray, and when you know that you have to do something, you kind of do it. And I think if both parents are there, I think that's where you get to be like, well, how come you're not holding this other kid while this other kid's puking or whatever? You're like, I just have to do this because it's what I do. And I think that eliminates a lot of that feeling of, you're over there on the couch and I'm over here doing this and that kind of stuff. And to me, it's almost easier if you're on your own and you just know what has to get done and you do it, rather than trying to figure out how do you motivate your partner to do it.
To help out. Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective, and probably spot on how it worked.
Yeah, you just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
How did you guys move from New York to Virginia? Like, what was behind that?
So
American Airlines first stopped flying out of Islip.
Yeah, I don't think that
wasn't the main reason. The main reason was really the education for our daughters. We started thinking about, they were 1 and 3 when we moved, so they don't really remember New York, but like the song, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, but it's a pretty hard life. Things are very expensive. Taxes on homes are like mortgage payments all in themselves. And we started thinking about Tony traveling so much, and we're like, maybe we could throw this idea out there. And he had always worked from a home office in New York, even while he traveled. And you threw it out there to the company you worked for. You said, hey, I'd have 3 airports near me in Virginia, and I have 2 airports in New York, and I'm going to make it work. And that's it. And we did it.
Yep.
We just wanted a better quality of life for our daughters.
23 years ago. 23 years ago.
Yeah. So, and so one of Tony's goals, I know, because he actually was an Air Force brat. I think you guys have a little military, right? Is it Gene? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's an Air Force brat, and he never grew up in one school system.
Yes. That was very important to me.
Very important. So before they started school, we wanted to make sure they started where they could finish.
Yeah, I despised as a kid moving every 2 to 4 years, and I told Sarah, I think it helped me in my career without a doubt, but I did not want that for my children to move constantly. So I'm not that they were going to do it in New York, but just all around Virginia was a better place for the family.
Yeah. And now we can't wait to leave.
You can't wait to leave Virginia?
Yeah, we would love to. Love to retire to where our children are.
Yeah,
follow them.
I tell you guys, I told you I miss the girls so much. I certainly know you do, and we just want to be around the girls.
So, last question: what is it that your partner does that they love you?
Oh my goodness! You know what, Sarah?
You put the coffee cup out for me.
Stop.
Yes, he sends our coffee cups out every single night. Like literally, the cabinet is right above the coffee pot, but he brings them down so they're ready.
I thought you were gonna say that I'm just very touchy-feely.
Well, that's definitely, both of our love language is touch.
Yeah.
It's not gift giving at all. Literally, on our 30th anniversary, we gave each other the same card that we picked out at the Dollar Tree together.
Literally a couple of weeks ago. So, do you like this card? I like this card.
Oh
and
yeah,
we
let's
signed
get it
it
together.
We sealed it, and then
we opened it together.
we opened it together.
Oh, you were both there and you picked the same
Yeah.
card?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was a Dollar Tree.
I
It
mean,
was like
we
a
had-
dollar
Well, and
25
we
for
had
the
a
card.
lovely. You know what? How about if you set the chef's table? So we have a chef's table in our kitchen, which is basically our kitchen island, but we call it the chef's table, and it's 2 stools, and it's our favorite place to dine. Even though we love to go out to eat, and we love a good cocktail, and we love our red wine, but yeah, if you set the chef's table for me, that's nice too. What do I do? What do I do that you know that I love you?
Oh my gosh, Sarah, that's so tough. I don't know that I could put.
Ooh,
Oh no.
it's gonna be homework then.
Oh my gosh, this is
Every
guys.
day.
You're ruining this marriage. I can't put my finger on the exact.
You're gonna wake up at like midnight and be like, oh, this and this and this and this and this.
This is one of my COVID projects, so you probably can't see the whole thing, and this is not even nearly Tony's album collection, but I thought of this, and I really wanted to surprise you, but I just needed him to pick out all of his favorite albums. There are 35 albums, which is only a fraction. And it was really a mathematical problem figuring out how to space all those evenly, but that got.
Gene,
The records aren't in there, are they?
yes, they are. Yes.
They're special frames, yeah. Special frames that hold the whole entire album and their cover.
Do you still play the album?
No, I don't have a turntable anymore.
That's how we listen to music is
Yeah,
turntable.
we have a turntable.
Oh no, kidding.
Yeah,
That's fun.
it is.
You know, it's funny. Everybody that sees the wall asks me if the albums are in it. I find that strange.
Well, because
Of course
you
they're in it.
can't, your 35 of your
can't
favorite
play 'em?
albums, you can't
Because
play
you can't
them
play 'em?
anymore.
Take it out. They're just little things that you take out.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I don't need to access them because I don't have a turntable anymore.
That makes
I'm
sense.
still listening to my 8-track tape player.
Yeah.
Oh,
Actually, you may not even know. You're not even old enough for that, are you?
Yep,
8
I am.
tracks.
Oh, you are.
I am, but I'm older than him, so
I remember 8 tracks.
I had Kenny Rogers and Alice Cooper were my 2 8-tracks.
Oh my God, Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin for me.
Ah,
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Sara Tony, I want to thank you so much for being on our podcast today. This is really wonderful to reconnect again after so many years.
It was wonderful. So good to talk to you guys, and congratulations on the wedding.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks.
Seeing pictures.
Yeah. We want to thank all of you for joining us today on Couple Synergy. Our passion is in helping couples and people have happy and healthy relationships. And this podcast gives us a fun way of bringing our knowledge and expertise to you, our listeners.
You know, sharing stories has been a way that human beings have been bonding, healing, and growing since the beginning of time. And we hope that by you guys sharing your story, it's enriched your lives and the lives of our listeners.
For all of you listening, please let us know how you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions, please email us at contact@couplesynergy.com. For more information about Couple Synergy and our programs such as Relationship 101, the home study course, the Next Couples Relationship Enhancement Weekend, and our premier couples coaching program called Couple to Couple, look us up online at couplesynergy.com.
And if you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please download it and share it. And thank you for listening.
Until next time, synergize your life and synergize your love.
You have been listening to Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. Couple Synergy was recorded, edited, and produced by Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. Voiceover and music entitled Breathe and Let Go was recorded and composed by Gina Gonzalez.